all last week, the topic of conversation was Cris Cyborg and her weight. How much does she weigh? Why is she fighting at 140? What is going on? Will she continue to fight at 140? Why can't she defend her 145-pound title? Why is she the 145-pound champion? And on it went. The man who was front and center, the man who was asked to get Cyborg down to 140 and possibly 135, the man who knows about this better than anyone, who is the most well-versed in this topic. You can brush aside all the, analysts, critics, fellow nutritionists. There's only one man who truly knows what's going on with Cris Cyborg, and it is George Lockhart, a fantastic nutritionist. He's been doing this for many, many years and works with some of the very best in this sport. He joins us right now on the phone to talk to us about the week that was for Cris Cyborg. George, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm back home and loving life.
All right. Welcome back. I appreciate you squeezing us in after a long trip back home. So how long, George, have you been doing this, working with athletes, helping them with their nutrition, with their weight? How long would you say you've been doing this?
With the actual UFC fighters, about 7 years. The Marine Corps, you're looking at like 12, 13 years. That's what I did before I worked with fighters. This was kind of like my gig. We had to get people on weight, and just like the Marine Corps, you have performance standards, you have weight standards. So not only do you have to make a weight, but you got to make sure that they can perform very well at that weight.
Right, which is obviously very important. So I ask you that because I'm wondering if the past 7 days or so were some of the most trying and just frustrating days as in your career as a nutritionist. Was this one on top of them all? Was this more difficult than any other stretch of days you have ever experienced in this field?
It was definitely tough, but all weight cuts are tough. A lot of times we work with multiple fighters for an actual fight. We've done up to 13 fighters for an event, and that right there is crazy. Like I said, crazy stressful. This one was just like the rest of them. The only difference is I think it's the first time we had a lot of negative press. And I can't talk about a fighter during a camp. You just can't do it, especially when they're going through the cut, because fighters don't want other people to know their business, and rightfully so. So, I have to wait till the cut's over. And that's why, I hadn't said anything, not because I didn't have an answer for anything. It's just, out of respect for the fighters. And, I know the videos came out, and the timing of those videos was I guess you say perfect for dramatic effect. But like I said, hopefully today I can answer all the questions and kind of tell you everything that went down and why things did look, I guess, the way they did.
So Cyborg comes on this show last week and starts telling us that she's 25 pounds, away from her target, that she's on birth control, and she's questioning this. And then this video comes out the next day of you and her, among others, in a van, and she's sort of questioning you. And I sort of started to feel like this was an indictment on you, and you have other people weighing in on it. And I'm wondering, with your resume, with your history, working with some of the best athletes in the world and having them hit their weight and perform at their peak, did you start to feel like you were being attacked? Were you bothered by, the things that she was saying, that they were putting out? Did you feel like it was unfair towards you?
Like I said, I did get a lot of negative backlash, but God honest truth, I've always said this from day one, the health of a fighter is very important to me. I worked with Jeff Novitzky for a long time. It's awesome because I know, with working with him, that the health of the fighters is his number one goal. And over these past couple of years, he's trying to improve the whole process of weight cutting, because it can be very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. And God honest truth, it was really cool because, you start seeing that people are paying attention to the weight cuts. They are seeing how dangerous they can be. And when you have people being like, what the heck, like this is dangerous for the girl, but the fact that they're actually caring about the well-being of the fighter, it tells us that he's doing his job, and everybody's doing their job. And if people didn't care, I'd probably be more bothered. The fact that it comes down on me, that's part of my job. That's why I get paid. But I do want to shine some light, with numbers and, like, okay, why was her weight so high, George?
Yeah, go ahead. Explain to us. Why was it so high?
So first off, one thing that I talk to people about, women and men are totally different. Men fluctuate a lot in weight in terms of, water, because men hold a lot more muscle than women. So their weight overnight, we call it floating. When they go to sleep, a lot of guys, I've had guys on fight week float 10 pounds. Literally, they go to bed, they wake up the next morning, they're 10 pounds lighter. And that has to do with the amount of muscle that they're holding, the amount of water that they're drinking, the whole water load thing. A lot of people have heard about that, but a lot of people don't actually understand the purpose behind it. With a woman, on the other hand, it's totally different. I have a scale of what I like to call true weight and then water weight. There's a lot of things that will make a woman hold water, and you look at this scale and you basically add or subtract numbers to it, and this will kind of give you, like I always say, stick with the numbers, and this will give you a true indicator of where you're at. For instance, if a woman is a very difficult anaerobic workout, anaerobic meaning without oxygen, let's say she has like a sparring session, or if she's lifting weights or whatever, and it's very intense, she's going to hold a lot of water. So you got anaerobic workouts, you have spicy foods. If they don't get a lot of sleep, they're going to hold water. If they're let's say having an excess amount of carbohydrates, an excess amount of dietary fiber, you get numbers for each one of these. A big one is if a woman is during her cycle, right before she has her period, during the luteal phase of her cycle, she's going to hold a lot of water. And if at this time you look at it, it's like, okay, she had an anaerobic workout, she did not sleep, she had a bunch of dietary fiber, because you want to feed these people a lot of this fiber. Why? Because it's not adding calories, but it's helping with the satiety. It's going to help them feel full while they're cutting weight. You don't want them to feel like they're starving all the time. You look at these numbers, you say, okay, this is a +1, this is a +2, this is a +3. Oh, and then you hit your cycle, that's like a +10. And the amount of water that a woman will hold. You got women that will go, they'll go up 12 pounds, 13 pounds, and that's not abnormal. You include the amount of stress during a fight week, again, they're going to hold water, and then the lack of sleep. During this time, Cris hit every one of them. So the number that you saw, there was days that she was a lot lighter, and then she goes up. If you have a woman that, let's say she's eating the same amount of calories every single day, she's working out, and then her weight goes up, and you take a look at this, you're like, okay, she's on her cycle, that makes sense. You got to stick with the numbers. You got to stick with the truth. You got to stick with, it is a big faith thing. But once you know this and you've done this long enough, okay, this is just water weight. For somebody to gain a pound of actual weight, they'd have to eat an excess amount of 3,500 calories. And trust me, Cris isn't doing that. And she didn't do that. So her weight went up, and we had to look at all this. When you see the videos, Cris literally hit her period. Like, it was the next day, she literally hit her period. So you're talking about stress. She had not slept. She just flown in, which is also going to make you hold on to water. All these attributing factors. You get out of you get off the plane, and boom, you're like, holy crap, I'm 165. And this, for the average person, they're going to be like, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to make weight. But with me, I'm like, stick with the numbers. This is what we have been weighing. It shot up. These are the reasons. Now, on another note, if I got somebody that they've been drinking maybe a half a gallon of water a day, they've got great sleep, they're not stressed out, they haven't been eating a lot, they haven't been intaking any sodium, and they're heavy, you got something to worry about, because those numbers don't add up. On that scale, you're looking like we're pretty close to your actual true weight, and now we're just going to start drawing water from muscles, organs, and negative parts of the body. That right there is something we want to do. And with Cris, unfortunately, it's just the timing. She hit it the week of her fight, and that's something I can't say, because her opponent's like, oh, good to go. I know that the person that I'm fighting, she just hit her period, which, can be a huge advantage and kind of a huge confidence booster.
Okay, and explain, and thank you for that detailed explanation, The idea to introduce the birth control pills was very much talked about. People weighing in, including her. She seemed to be somewhat confused about the whole thing, which was strange to me. Why did you do that? And did it work the way you thought it would?
Right. So at the end of the day, like, a lot of people think like I'm prescribing stuff and giving medication. Like, I do not. I am not a doctor. I can't prescribe anything. I can't write anything down and be like, okay, take this. One thing that I did want to go over is like, okay, we have sporadic periods, and when this happens, we tend to go up a lot. You know, what I wanted is lighter periods, a little bit more frequency, a little bit more regularity. This is something that we want to address. The actual birth control that was prescribed to her it's got a compound that actually helps out with aldosterone. Aldosterone is it's an antidiuretic hormone. Basically, when you start cutting weight, your blood volume decreases. When your blood volume decreases, the thickness of your blood increases. Now, what happens is your body's it's an amazing survival mechanism, right? And it's always trying to keep a balance, a homeostasis. It's always trying to keep itself in check. So when it sees blood volume go down, it's going to raise that hormone aldosterone. When aldosterone is raised, what it's trying to do is draw water back into the body so you can increase the blood volume. Start drawing water back into the body, obviously weight's going to go up. Weight cutting is going to be very, very difficult. So the biggest thing is, we look at, like, we want the frequency of the periods to be more regular. They want to be lighter, and this is something that we talked about. Like, hey, last camp, this is something that we faced, and every single cut we want to get easier and easier and easier. I don't want to have the same cut every single time. Like, okay, well, we did this last time. Let's just do the same thing next time. There's so many different variables that come into play when weight cuts. There's no weight cuts that's the same, even with the same fighter. Principles stay the same. There's a lot of things that we had to do differently. I usually, I usually give like dandelion root and things like that to a fighter to help them naturally release water. Dandelion root is a potassium-saving diuretic. With the birth control that Cris was on, that's something that we couldn't do. One of the things that we have to look out for was hypokalemia, which is it's an overdose of potassium. So we can't give her those diuretics, but the biggest thing, like I was saying, is aldosterone. Another one's vasopressin. Vasopressin is a hormone basically that we have to look at that is going to, again, hold water. We can affect that through temperature, but there's no other way that we can help out with the aldosterone. There's no other way we can help out with the periods. So that's something that I brought to her attention. She spoke with the doctor, and at the end of the day, Cris is very disciplined. Cris is very regimented, and she's like just about every other fighter. So many fighters, when you go back to like the IV ban, they've done it time and time again. When the IV ban came, they're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? There's no way that I can fight at the level that I was fighting at without the IV. We introduced the science to them and told them, okay, this is why the oral rehydration is actually going to be better than the actual intravenous hydration. But the biggest thing is you want to do the same thing. I always use the lucky socks or the lucky underwear analogy. And you got that guy that's like, I'm wearing the same socks with same underwear. I'm not taking a bath for 3 weeks. Why? Because my last 3 fights I won, and I wore these underwear and I wore these socks. And I guess the mentality is you're very vulnerable, especially at the level that these guys are fighting at. So when you change this, and then we got a video camera right when this poor girl is cutting weight, she's hungry, hits her period. You're darn right that she's gonna be like, what the hell? This is like I said, the numbers were all there, and then what happens is it shoots up. We sit there and like, why did it shoot up? Oh, because all the variables that I had told you about. Now I don't want to go too in depth because obviously don't want to get into the like too much of a specific fighter. Tell the business. That's one thing that about me. I keep everything. Okay, this is just between us. This is how we do the cut. But she made the weight. And she felt great. We did the hydration, everything perfectly. Everything was as, like I said, the numbers were right. And the thing is she made weight on her period. That's the biggest thing. Like if any woman has, and I know there's women fighters out there that have done this. It is so much more difficult for them to actually make weight on their period, and she did that. So, as for why we did that, if you look at the science behind that, that specific type of birth control, that's a real helpful, I guess you say, real helpful aspect of it. Something that she talked to her doctor about. He gave her the prescription, and honestly, I think the differences of camps. It's like, why the hell are my numbers going up? Oh, what's different this camp? Oh, I'm on birth control this time. This is why this is happening. This is what caused it. And like I said, my job is, I'll tell you what, I am. During fight week, I'm probably the most hated person in the world, but afterwards, I might be one of the most loved people in the world.
Right.
That's why I do it. Just make sure everything's safe. And if at any time there's a lot of signs that are there, and I've always told this to everyone, that if at any given time that I'm like, okay, this is we're starting to draw water from places of the body we shouldn't. I'm going to cut it faster than anybody. And between me and you, this is probably going to make me sound bad, but I've done that for fighters before. I've literally said, okay, this is taking too long. We have a system, basically like in the back, how long it takes somebody to crack, basically how long it takes them to beat up. You have 5 minutes, you have 12 minutes. 12 minutes is on the higher end. You get above that, you start saying, okay, this person is not sweating. Why are they not sweating? Their body's not releasing that water. So where's that water going to come from, once it does happen? Then it starts getting dangerous. And I've literally said this, and we're talking UFC fighters, like, I'm like, dude, we need to call it. This is getting unsafe. And UFC fighter being what they are, I can't make them do that. I can call it, but I can't make them stop. And they made the weight, and it shows, like, hey man, I'm not about like, oh yeah, none of my fighters have ever missed weight. Anytime I've ever went out, no fighter, if I've ever went out for them to actually make a weight cut, nobody's missed weight. But you're damn right, I don't care about that statistic. If somebody's going to miss weight because of their safety, and I'll call it in a heartbeat, because morally is one thing. Business wise, you're like, okay, you missed weight, or oh, they had to go to a freaking hospital. They had renal failure, kidney failure, all these other things. Man, I mean, that's bad for me. It's bad for the sport. It's bad for the UFC.
Okay, 3 more relatively quick questions because we are running out of time. I want to get your take on it. Do you still support the idea of her fighting at 140 and even 135, or would you like her to stop doing that and fight at the more natural 145?
Man, these questions, you as well as I do. I got people on so many different ends of things.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, you got your perfect world where like nobody cuts weight, but everybody's always going to cut weight. And if you don't cut and somebody does, they're going to have a huge advantage. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She made the 140. At the end of the day, it all comes down to her. If she says, her camp says, oh, we want to do 140, I will get her to 140. They say we'll go 145. Honestly, I get that call. And that's it. And this is one thing. I always just stay in my lane, Ariel. I always stay in my lane, because I have people be like, there's guys that I work with, and I'm like, dude, you can go down a whole nother weight class. And I won't tell them that, because I want to stay in my lane. You want to fight at this weight? Good to go. I'm going to get you at that weight. I'm going to make you feel great. And that's it. Once I start getting out of that lane, that's when you start getting into trouble,
Fair enough. I respect that. A video surfaced prior to her fight of her weighing in, and the scales seemed to say 141.5. Are you aware of this? And if so, why was she half a pound over the limit?
So, from my understanding with the commission, that was allowed.
Okay.
And God honest truth, man, I'm going to get you down like any fighter knows. You see fighters I work with, they're going to be 146 on the dot. They're going to be 156 on the dot. I'm not going to make you cut any more weight than is absolutely necessary. And then that's exactly what we needed. So that's exactly what we got her down to.
Okay. So, but because originally we thought she couldn't be above 140. There was some discrepancy. And then we find out 141, and then we see 141 and a half. So do you know why she was allowed that extra half?
That was up to the commission, I believe.
Okay.
So I think you get a variable in there. And I believe like a lot of people don't know this. Like a lot of times with that, when you step on the scale, like a lot of the digital scales, especially in the U.S., it only goes by 0.5. So if you're, let's say, 171.2, it rounds down to 171. If you're 171.3, then it rounds up. So a lot of people don't know that. But like again, I'm going to get you down to like the damn gram, so you don't have to sit in a bath longer than you need to. You don't have to work out any longer than you need to.
Does George Lockhart want to continue working with Cris Cyborg?
I'm going to see. Like whatever. Whatever she wants to do, I think we're going to have a huge sit down and talk. Like we, big hug. This happens every camp. You know what I mean? Like I said, all fighters, they go through different aspects. Some fighters have a little bit easier cuts than others. And emotions are extremely high, and I think that she needs to take a little bit of a break. I didn't even bring it up to her. And a lot of it is like, do you want to work with me still? From my understanding, yes, but I think we'll see where the cards lie. If she's like, you know what, I want to fight at 145, then I think that she could do the 145 on her own. I'll always be there though. 2.5 years with somebody, and literally like when I say 2.5 years with them, I'm out there. I literally I seen my son one time in the last 2 months because making sure that this cut went down, make sure that she had what she needed. You get very close with these fighters. I'm very close with Cris. She's a really, really good friend of mine. The camp, I'm really good friends with everybody in the camp. And like I said, I just want what's best for them. So, like I said, when she ever, I think she's taking a much needed vacation, and then I wasn't even going to bring it up. The last thing you want to do right after a fight is like, hey, so we're going to do the 140 thing again, or you're like, hey, enjoy your victory. You don't need to be thinking about this. But you ask me that in a couple months, and I'll give you a very solid answer.
If I may, I just want to squeeze in one more, since your insight is so invaluable. Is it smart, since you work with Conor McGregor, for him to fight at 170? Then maybe we're talking 155, 145. Like, does he need to pick a weight class? Is it not good for his body to keep jumping around?
A God honest truth, the way that Conor's built, working with a guy is so much freaking easier. And to tell you the truth, man, you saw what he weighed in at the fight. He weighed in, I believe, this last fight was like 169, 168. Most guys that I work with that go to 45, man, they walk around heavier than that. So it's not going to be, it won't be an issue. I don't want to speak out of line, like I said, give too much information. But if he ever calls me and say, hey, George, I want to fight at 145, we get the job done. 155, definitely get the job done. Whatever, like I said, I'm here for my clients. And like I said, I stay in my lane.
Oh, yeah. Well, one last thing. How much did she weigh on fight night, Cyborg?
That I can't tell you.
Oh, come on.
I know. I can't. Like, the fighter can tell you. There's one thing I will never say is the weights. Like, a lot of people be like, well, how much do they weigh right now? And that's one thing, like, fighters don't want to know. I've worked with some fighters, and they want people to think that they're heavier than they are. I've worked with other fighters. They want people to think they're lighter than they are. So when I spit that out, they're like, what the hell, man?
Fair enough. All right. I will leave it at that. No more extra questions, George. I appreciate it very much. I've gone way past the bell, as they say in fighting. Tremendous work. Thank you. For the record, I never doubted you. I knew she was in good hands. And once again, you prove why you are one of the very best in the business. So kudos to you, my friend. Thank you for coming on, and enjoy some time at home.
Thanks so much, Ariel. I appreciate it having you on the show, brother.
All right. Anytime. There he is, George Lockhart, stopping by. Fascinating stuff.